because there is a saying that says, if it walks like a dog, moves like a dog, talks like a dog, do everything like a dog, maybe it is a dog. Welcome to Future States, the podcast where law, leadership, and society meet. I'm Emmanuel, and in each episode, we explore the forces shaping our future and what the leaders need to understand to navigate them successfully. Today, we are stepping into a territory that sounds like a science fiction, but what history teaches us today in today's science fiction often becomes tomorrow's policy debates. So here is the question. So should AI ever have rights? Here we are not talking about capabilities, we are not talking about access and not permissions, but here we are talking about rights. It's a question that forces us to think about intelligence, personhood, responsibility, and in fact, what it means to be human. If an AI system becomes capable of learning, reasoning, communicating, creating and making decisions independently. Should society continue to treat it as an ordinary? Almost every few months, AI models can do things that they cannot do in the previous months. The focus of this and what I'm going to argue is that today AI systems do not possess legal rights. But if capability continue to advance, the society may eventually be forced to reconsider some fundamental assumptions because today's lie might be tomorrow's truth might be now. So we are going to look at what we mean by rights. Rights generally provide protection or entitlement that society recognize or enforce. And some of the rights that exist is the human rights. We also have property rights. We have privacy rights. We have the freedom of expression. One important thing about rights is that rights often reflect moral and legal recognition. Because if you have a moral recognition, before we can call it a right, it needs to have a legal backing. Example is that society has expanded rights to groups that were previously excluded. In the US, there was a time where women are not allowed to vote due to human rights campaign and activism. Later, women were granted the right to vote. Also, in the past, blacks don't vote in the US, but today, blacks are able to vote. So that is a lot of change. In the United Kingdom, once upon a time, only some leaders of communities vote on behalf of their section. Now, everybody has a right to vote. And when it comes to rights, we have right that doesn't exist before, but now exists today, either through Act of Parliament or through the House of Lords. So it's possible for someone that doesn't have rights to have new rights. And let me go through another example, the abolition of slavery. What I'm saying is that the concept of rights is not constant, and rights evolve over time due to new discovery, and it responds to the current society, to our new realities. So the question is not whether AI deserves rights. So the question I want you to look at is what characteristic justify rights in the first place? Because it's not about if AI deserves a right, but is AI doing something? Does AI have a characteristics that justify having a right in the first place? Because there is a saying that says, if it walks like a dog, moves like a dog, talks like a dog, do everything like a dog, maybe it is a dog. Now, there is another part to this, the legal personhood and historical precedents. And if we look at this, not all entities with legal rights are human. The argument from some people will be that why will AI have rights when AI is not human? And I will give you some example. Corporations have legal status even though they are not humans. Governments also have legal status. You can sue the government even though it's not human. You can sue a company. And also there are certain organizations that can own property, enter contracts, and can be held accountable. And they are not human, but they have rights. So these entities are not people in the biological sense, but the law treats them as legal persons for practical reasons. So, but what this demonstrates is that legal recognition is more flexible than many people assume. What I want to argue here is that law already recognizes certain non-human entities when society finds it useful to do so. And right now, I want to explore the arguments for and against AI rights. But firstly, I'll start with the argument for AI rights. Supporters of AI rights might have their argument that if an AI system were ever capable of consciousness, of being self aware, of independent preferences, and having the ability to suffer, then denying rights will become an ethical problem. So that argument would not depend on biology. It will only depend on their capability. But currently, AI has no consciousness, it has no self-awareness, it has no independent preferences. But with us moving to an era of artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence, AGI, we might not be able to rule that out entirely. And then let's go for arguments that is against AI rights. What the argument would be is that current AI system does not possess consciousness. They do not experience emotion. They do not have personal interests, and they do not suffer. So on that basis, they remain a sophisticated tool. But even highly advanced system may simply simulate intelligence rather than possess genuine awareness. The reason why we should all care about this is that if you look at this topic at the first glance, it seems purely philosophical, but the reality is that it has practical implication. With us asking this question, in future, we might have additional questions to answer. And I believe some of these questions are already being answered now or asked now. Questions like, who is responsible when autonomous AI causes harm? Can AI enter a legal agreement? Who owns AI or generated intellectual property? Can AI act independently of its creator? So that question are already being there. Whether or not AI ever received rights, leaders will increasingly be confronted with questions that existing legal systems were not designed to answer. And the challenge is not simply technological. It is legal, it is ethical, and it's a societal question. With the question about whether AI should have rights, it shows that leaders should start preparing for that scenario where AI will be having rights, or when that discussion will become more real. In that sense, I will advise leaders to start doing these things today. The first action I would like every leader to take is that they need to separate science fiction from present reality. Current AI discussion should focus on governance, accountability, risk, transparency. Because if we focus on those fundamentals, even by the time AI needs to have rights, that would already answer that question. The focus should not be on machine rights. Leaders need to avoid distraction while remaining aware of emerging debates. This is a valid debate. It will happen at some point. I'm hoping because of the technology advancement. But at the moment, that is not the problem facing us. The second action is I will encourage leaders to monitor developments in law and ethics, because question that seems theoretical today may become tomorrow's practical reality. So if a leader understands these debates, they will be prepared for future regulation and societal changes. And that is what differentiates a strategic leader from a random leader. The third action is for leaders to invest in multidisciplinary thinking, because future AI challenges will not be straightforward. It will require collaboration between various teams, including technologists, lawyers, policymakers, business leaders. And the reality, which is the truth, is that no single discipline can resolve these issues alone. Everyone will have a big part to play. For most human history, intelligence and humanity were assumed to be inseparable. AI is forcing us to reconsider those assumptions. And the reason is that the question is not whether today's AI deserves rights. It does not. The more interesting question is, if one day we create something that genuinely think, reason, learn, and experiences the world independently, how should society respond? And perhaps the deepest question of all, would granting rights to intelligent machines say more about machines or more about us? Thank you for listening to The Future State. If today's discussion challenged your assumption about intelligence, law, and the future of society, Share this episode with a colleague, lawyer, policymaker, technologist, or anyone fascinated by the questions emerging from artificial intelligence. Next time, we move from philosophical questions to practical realities as we explore, can Africa lead the AI revolution? Will Africa shape the future of artificial intelligence or simply consume technology developed elsewhere? Until next time, keep asking not only what intelligence is, but what responsibility come with it. Thank you.